My name is Kismet. I'm part of Pandemic Horde Inc. This is going to be the newbie onboarding. We are recording this session. I'd like everyone to go ahead and get into frigates. Sometimes when you get pings, you'll go ahead and get told to go ahead and what to bring. Tevi, if you don't have a ship, I can go ahead and trade you a ship, but you need to be docked in MJ5. If you're docked here, we give out free ships. You just need to go ahead and put an X space, the name of the ship, into the newbies channel. The newbies channel is how Pandemic Horde controls or deals with new players. To find it, you just hit the plus sign next to channels. You type newbies and hit join. I've also linked it in Fleet. The other channel that's useful to it is something called bean-intel, and you can join it the same way. Any frigate will work. I recommend a frigate. Realize that if we decide to go after something, we will go ahead and throw away all of our ships to try and kill it. This is an open fleet. You're encouraged to ask questions. It's a little bit like going to class. If you stay quiet and lost, you're just not going to learn anything. So it's better that you interrupt the instructor and ask questions. If you have the question, other people have the question too, especially if things are unclear and especially if you're new. Does anyone have any questions before we start? You don't have to ask. You can just ask your question. Never ask to ask. If you don't want to interrupt my voice comms, you can always just type. And yes, you report every intel neutral that you see that has not been reported. We'll go over that as part of the onboarding. Right now, it looks like we're missing ANOM. You can find fleets using the fleet window. Now, I'll point out that sometimes it's not always on the menu here. So you can go ahead and sometimes what you'll do is you go to Neocom, Social, and the Fleet button, and you can click and drag it onto the bar on the left-hand side, and then it will always show up on the left-hand side. To find fleets, you go to the Fleet Finder, and you click the Find Fleets button. You have this sorted by boss, and you find the one that starts with KIS for Kismet here. By finding the fleet and knowing and looking at the Discord pings, so we'll go ahead and look at our Discord pings associated with this. You can see that I have asked for this to go ahead and be in newbies onboarding. We see that we're in NBI Classroom 1. We asked for a frigate like a Slasher or a Merlin, and we have some other instructions on how to join the fleet. We definitely want you to go ahead and fly what's called a doctrine. The doctrines basically explain what kind of ships that we want people to go ahead and bring. The doctrines for Pandemic Horde are pretty straightforward in that they're in this big long list. So if we ask you to bring a PNI, which stands for Prophecy Navy Issue, this is a list of ships that we find appropriate for the PNI fleet. If we ask for an FNI, that stands for Ferox Navy Issue, and that is a shield comp and has a slightly different requirement. There are certain ships you can bring on every fleet, and that's going to be the NBI ships that we give you for free. If you're missing one of the NBI ships, you can go to newbies right now and type X space Merlin. I will give you a Merlin, or you can put X space Slasher. One of those two is going to be the best ship for this fleet. The Vigil isn't going to be as helpful for us because we're in very small ships, and we can generally apply here. Fantastic. It looks like we have everyone in fleet. The first thing we're going to go talk about is the fleet history window. The fleet history window is basically where you can see broadcasts. So in the broadcast history, you can see different options happen. And at the bottom, there's ways to go ahead and call for things to happen. At this point, I'd like everyone to go ahead and undock. I'm going to put A's in fleet here. You're going to right click my name, go to fleet, add to watch list. So if I right click on someone, go to fleet, add to watch list, you can have someone appear on your watch list. The watch list shows if they're on the same grid as you. And they also go ahead and show that if you are, if they're getting shot, and it basically is a great way to go ahead and use buttons later on. That's going to be helpful to go ahead and do things on them, essentially. So I'm going to move this pointer another way. So right now I've added Tev 3.3 on my watch list. ANOM, you're still not in fleet. If you're struggling to get in fleet, talk to me in newbies and I'll help you. you can click and drag anyone else from local or from the fleet window onto your watch list. You can also click in the list of people, hit Control A, and click and drag everyone. So right now doing this, I can see Denny is not currently undocked. Because Denny is undocked, he's going to go ahead and miss this fleet warp. He might, and remember, if you are not following the FC's instructions, you can sometimes get left behind or get left behind to die. Remember, when you're by yourself, that's when you usually die. I'm going to go ahead and fleet warp you at this point. Because you have my watch list, you might also colorize my name. This makes it easier for you to find me. So you might colorize a FC like red. You might colorize a Logi like blue. You might go ahead and colorize some other important people in different colors. This allows you to go ahead and easily keep track of who is doing this. In this case, I'd like you to go ahead and warp back to me. To do this, you right-click my name, go to warp in the watch list. You can go right-click on the watch list and fleet warp to member. Or you can right-click on person in the chat. So if I go to put T's in fleet, T's stand for Titan, A stands for anchor. You can right-click, go to fleet, warp to member. This is a little bit slower, so adding them to the watch list makes it a lot faster. Note, hopefully everyone has their overview set up. When you land on me, go ahead and keep it range 1000 on me. Looks like Astro has not worked back to me right now. So Astro, go ahead and right-click on my name, go to fleet, warp to member. Holding down the E key uses the default range, which is the 6th button in the selected items in the top right-hand corner. All of the options in there have hotkeys associated with it, and learning those hotkeys can make you much more effective pilot because you're going to be faster associated with doing things. You can see that I'm not in a frigate. I'm not in a doctrine ship. So if we tried to take a warp here, this warp would actually be extremely slow. This is because I'm not in the correct ship. And Anam, you can go ahead and warp off to a friendly structure, or you can try to burn through the structure, realize you're going to bounce off this keep star. It is sometimes better to warp off to a friendly structure. You can see on this grid, we have a Tatara and we have an Asbel. Can everyone see those? Those are under type. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, there you might see one called a Fortizar. This is a gate Fortizar, and this is for protecting that particular gate. And just gives you an easy warp in that's less likely to get attacked. The Fortizar is your place of safety when things go bad. We're going to go ahead and take what's called a Titan Bridge. The Titan Bridge can go ahead and fold space up to 6 light years away. You can see right now I'm showing on my screen for the video. You can see how far away we can bridge. You can see we can bridge right quite far. So you can see right here you have this WNM. We're going to go ahead and take this bridge here. And hopefully everyone go ahead and take this bridge and let me know. And when you get in, I would like you to warp to the Fortizar. Sometimes the FC asks you to go ahead and do something. You can see my Titan starts to glow. That means the bridge is active. You can now right-click on the Titan and go ahead and do jump through to WNM. You can also do this from the radio menu by left-clicking and holding down and pressing upwards. That's where the jump icon appears. Denny and Alinam, go ahead and right-click and take the bridge. It's important to take bridges quickly because sometimes your Sino might die, and if your Sino dies, then you can't take the bridge. So Anam, right-click the Titan. You have to be within 1,000 or 2,500 meters of it. You're a little too far away. Keep it range. You didn't keep it range. I'll point out Eve is very good. Go ahead and approach me, Anam, quick. Approach me, Anam. Otherwise, you're going to miss the bridge and you're going to have to manually burn like I do. Approach the Titan. Approach me, Anam. I don't think Anam's going to take this. He's not going to make it in time because he's not following instructions or confused and not asking for help. He has missed the bridge. He is now left behind. Because he's left behind, he might die on the way. Sometimes you get separated from your FC, and sometimes you go ahead and get separated from the fleet, and you have to find where the fleet is. Hopefully everyone in that system has warped to the Fortizar there. It's a type. Anam, just go ahead and stick with me on here. We'll go ahead and burn over ourselves. You can link where you are by left-clicking and dragging the system name to the chat. I would like everyone to go ahead and try that now. Left click and drag the system in the top left-hand corner down to the chat. Anam, let me know if you can do that. Anam, just tell me if you're confused and I'm happy. Great, everyone did. You can also drag someone's name. You can do this from local, or you can go ahead and do it from the fleet history, or you can do it from watch list. There's lots of ways to drag people's names in. You might go ahead and see that I might go ahead and say Anita here, and I might say NV. This means no visual. But a lot of times what I'll do is I'll go ahead and drag the actual system. I'll drag the actual ship. You can do this by, if you have the ship on grid with you, you can click on them in the selected items, and then they'll go ahead and show up. So I'll show this, what this looks like. So if I left click on, you can see this, there's Kevin Rosar here. I can left click and drag Kevin Rosar, and I can grab his ship, and it'll drag his name and the ship. This can be very useful for reporting intel quickly. Now realize that we can use the map to figure out where people are as well. We don't have to ask them. So if we go to the map, go to the gear icon, go to personal, there's My Fleet Members. My Fleet Members is an easy way for you to go ahead and see where people are. I'll go ahead and drag one other thing here. Give me a second here. I'm going to put this in the correct place. I'm going to go ahead and type this so it's easier to find. I'm actually going to put two things in right now. We're going to go over both of them right now. Go ahead and copy some stuff here. Great. So you can go to the gear icon in the map, and this allows you to go ahead and easily find out where people are. Now I can see that you guys are in WNM, so I can right click into it and do set destination, and I can see that this is currently 2 jumps away from me. If you're in WNM, tell me how many jumps away MJ5 is for you. You can type it in fleet, you can say on comms. Anam, you can set destination to WNM. You can use the map to find that. Everyone seems to have 2. This is the correct answer. There is an option under A next to route where you can include jump gates and route. If I turn this off, this suddenly turns into 12 jumps away. But because I've included jump gates and route, I can automatically set that. Now realize that we will pass through what's called an ansiblex on the way, and we can automate the paying of this ansiblex in the wallet. So if you go ahead and go to your wallet, which is the Z on the left-hand side, it's also Alt-W. You don't have to remember that one. You go to My Wallet, ISK, and you can go ahead and go to Automatic Pay, activate jump gates, set it to 1,000, hit apply. I've typed this in Fleet already. You can scroll up if you're lost, if I went too fast. I talk very quickly, never feel bad about not understanding me or etc. And everyone, by the way, everyone's going into WNM right now. And I'm going to go ahead and fleet warp us to, hopefully I can, oh, I forgot, I exempted myself from fleet warp. So this is why I'm messing up here. So now realize that sometimes people might call for W's. I'm going to type it. You're not going to warp to me. W's mean warp to me. If someone types X's, I have a tackle. A is anchor. B is secondary anchor. CCC is Sino. This means they're going to bridge space between stuff. And now Anam, you can burn over to WNM. It should be 2 jumps away. Anam, you need to talk to me if you're confused. This class does not work if you just stay confused. Does anyone have any current questions? If you all understand Eve Perkinley, no, it's not slow computer. It's you're struggling. Just tell me where you're struggling with and we can fix it. Now realize the FC has a great amount of ability to go ahead and do fancy stuff. So for instance, if I go ahead and tell you to align to something, you'll see this on your fleet history window. You can see there's an align. If you don't have the fleet history window, I'll link it to you like one more time. So everyone can go ahead and align here. And because the FC is smart, they can go ahead and do crazy stuff like fleet warp relative. Fleet warp relative allows an FC to go ahead and warp people past something that they broadcast. So you can see you've now landed past something because I warped relative. This allows the FC great control over his fleet, his or her fleet. Now realize they often go ahead and do what are called cold warps. So a cold warp basically goes ahead and warps you. Anam, you're missing these fleet warps. You might want to go ahead and burn over to us and warp to me. To warp to me, you right click me, my name. Now you notice that right now, Anam is currently off by himself. Again, when you're left by yourself, you're going to die. Are there any questions about this? Now realize you might have turned on your micro warp drive. I would like everyone to go ahead and to align to here. When you have aligned, I would like you to go ahead and turn on your prop mode. Your prop mode is your micro warp drive or your afterburner. A micro warp drive increases your speed by about 5 times and increases your mass a lot. Anam, you're not aligning. You can just type or use your mic to tell me what's going wrong. It's in the fleet history window. You have to open the fleet history window. It's under the Neocom social fleet. When you have the fleet window, it's one of the tabs and it says broadcasts. Again, if I'm saying things and it doesn't make sense to you, stop me. I talk very fast and I want you to understand. Great. And because everyone has their micro warp drive running right now, we're all burning very fast. We also have our mass increased a lot because we're running it. So if I go ahead and change where we're warping to and you're running your micro warp drive, because you have your micro warp drive running, it can be very slow to get into warp sometimes. This is especially true with big ships. But if you manage to turn off your micro warp drive, you see how we kind of staggered there? It's important to take those aligns as fast as you can. I'm going to go do another align here. It's not going to be a surprise where we're going to here. So if you are slow, you might go ahead and again get left behind, and that's bad. Looks like everyone is aligned. Because we're all aligned, we all warp as one big group. That's exactly what we want to see. When you land, I would like you to do what's called anchoring up. You're going to go hold down the E key, which is the default for keep at range, and you're going to left click on me on the watch list. I'm going to go ahead and burn away a little bit. Because you guys are keeping at range, you're not going to bump me that hard. Tev, you haven't kept at range yet. Anam, you're still sitting still. You have to add me to the watch list. You go to right click my name, go to fleet, add to watch list. There you go. Cool. Because you ran your micro warp drive, you kind of burned into us and bounced us a little bit. So try to keep your micro warp drive for when you're very far away. Now realize I can also do what's called a regroup. This causes you to go ahead and put an orbit up on me. I don't have to do anything. You don't have to do anything for me to have this happen, but realize all of our arrows, if you have the tactical overlay turned on, which is under Control D, you can see our arrows all kind of point different directions. So if I go ahead and try to align us off someplace without telling you, so I'm going to go ahead and align someplace and everyone's doing the kind of the orbit thing on me. If I go ahead and fleet warp us, we're not going to go off in a nice clustered group. We're going to be, I might even warp even drifts off by myself. And you can see how slow some people can be to warp if they're going the wrong direction. So we're going to go ahead and everyone keep at range of me again. Again, you tap E key, left click on me in the watch list. This keeps it range. You don't do approach because you can bump me that way. And because we're all aligned, or because we're all keeping at range, we're all going around the same speed, we actually go into warp in very, very close proximity to each other. So you can see how powerful that can be. Are there any questions over anything I went over? Now realize the watch list, the broadcast history window, yeah, you can go ahead and change the keep it range by right clicking on it. And I'll go ahead and link where that is. These blue icons, if you click on them, they show you a box where to point at, what points at it. And if you right click on that keep it range, you can set that default keep it range. I recommend it sent to 1,000. And you hit OK, and then all of your keep it ranges will default. Now realize if you use the radio menu, this also changes this default for the radio menu, which is in the bottom right hand corner, keep it range. Or you can right click on someone and do keep it range, and you just have to click the first one. You don't have to move the mouse over to do that. This is a change in Eve in general. They made the menu a lot more responsive, so it's much easier to go ahead and make those changes. Now we talked a little bit about the broadcast history window. We can also colorize this. As a default, it goes ahead and has everything in black and white. So if I call for shields, if I call for armor, and I call for a target, all of these might be the same color. In the Kiss Assist channel, which is one of the channels I maintain, there's an option in here for changing the colors for all your broadcasts. Everyone can go ahead and load this one right now. You just click it. It's going to ask you a question. Is it okay to load this? We're going to say yes. It's going to bring up a page. You can click and remove any of these, and if you're colorblind, you can change these to be appropriate colors for you. I'm red-green colorblind, but I can tell this red and these greens apart, so I'm usually pretty okay. There's also one for if you fly only tackle or DPS. This removes the shield one, so if someone else can call for shields here. So if I go ahead and load the DPS one, it removes that shield broadcast. It always shows your own, and you can always go ahead and right click on one and remove this type of broadcast. So if I go ahead and, for instance, call for need backup, you can right click on that and do ignore this type of broadcast, and it will automatically remove it, and then you won't get those anymore. You could also, if you're flying a logistics ship, these provide reps on field. The logistics ship is designed to go ahead and help other people. If you load this overview, you will only see the broadcast. You won't see when I call for targets at all unless you were the one calling for the targets. So if someone holds down X and calls for a target someplace, you can call target the Fortizar, hit X, hold down X and left click on the Fortizar. You can see that it still shows a target here. And if I go ahead and load the all broadcasts again, I can see multiple people called it. Realize that they can see who did this. So I can see a nom called for broadcast there. So just a heads up, if you're a spy, you can go ahead and get caught being a spy by calling for a broadcast. So just so you know. Also in that same broadcast history window, there's also a loot history. You can see what people have looted. So if I go ahead and eject a single piece of ammo, which I'm going to go ahead and do right now. So I'm going to go ahead and jettison. I would like someone to go ahead and pick up that loot. You can use the loot history to find out who is taking stuff. And it is not always immediate. It's sometimes delayed. And I can see Denny Este went ahead and took it. I can see the timestamp. And it's because they're in my fleet. You can also see when people joined. And you can also see who's taken control using this. This is a very useful screen. Now I mentioned that to call for shields, at the bottom, there's a bunch of icons. Some of them has shortcuts, some of them do not. The two that are important is the calling for armor. This is when you're an armor fleet, or calling for shields. This is when you're a shield fleet. Now you can shortcut these buttons. I'm gonna go ahead and link them right now. Give me a second. I would like everyone to go ahead and call for shields. Now, because I have the all, I can see everyone's option here. And I can also see that Tev has not called for shields now. Tev, if you want to go ahead and click the blue button, there you go. Fantastic. Now you can shortcut these keys. I recommend D for armor, S for shield. The reason I like these two is because by default, if you left click on the Fortizar, under selected items, you can see that the warp to is by default S and the dock option is D. So if I ever start typing random stuff in this, it starts doing crazy stuff, and then I might accidentally warp myself off. I've had this happen too many times, so I recommend the D for armor, S for shields, and it's just to remap those selected items. And realize all of these buttons have shortcuts. So if you look at the orbit, which is the 5th button in selected items, this is the W key. The W key is very useful for tackle players because it sets you up on a default orbit. I would like everyone to go hold down the W key and left click on me on the watch list. I can see your speed, so I can see if you're moving. Now you all have your micro warp drive off currently. You have your prop mode off, so your mass is low, so you're very quick to turn. You can see Anom is burning very far away from me. This is because his default orbit is set very high right now. You can change this on a per ship basis to be appropriate for the ship. Now realize you want to go ahead and set this orbit to be appropriate for the ship with your prop mode running, because that's how you're going to go into combat. So in this particular case, I would like you to go ahead and turn your prop mode on, and you'll notice that your orbit becomes very big and loopy. So you can see you tend to move further away. Anom, I'd like you to go ahead and change your orbit to be appropriate for your ship. Now, a lot of times what you're doing is you're looking at your weapon systems. So you can see my weapon systems here. I have neutron blasters. These work really well at under 1600 meters. So I want a very close orbit. So I might have mine set to 500 meters because I want to do the maximum amount of damage while that time. But because you guys are in tackle ships, you're not in high damage ships, you're more worried about how long your scram is. A scram allows someone to go ahead and shut off a micro warp drive. It also stops them from warping out. There's also a disruptor. A disruptor is called a point. The range of the disruptor can be very long. It can be up to like 60 kilometers away with a really good ship, or even higher. However, with a scram, while it does prevent people from warping off, is very short. So I'd like everyone to go ahead and change their orbit to be closer to the edge of how far they are away. So Astro, I'd like you to change your orbit to be closer to what your scram and web is with your micro warp drive running. And you do this by right-clicking it, set the default orbit. So if you have if you go ahead and you have to do a little bit of practice to kind of tune it in, and you don't want to ever drift outside of your disruptor range and your point scram range and your web range. You want to find out what's important to you. You can see everyone's kind of dialing it in right now. So if I go ahead and say, I want to go ahead and, but realize as soon as that target starts moving, things can get very chaotic and you can burn out of range. So if I'm orbiting Trillic here, you can see I'm actually orbiting at 3,300, but if they burn away from me a little bit, they might get even further away, but I'm never going to drop out of my 7,500 meter scram range. Now realize I can heat this as well by holding shift and clicking on it, and this increases the range on it. I can and realize that you can overheat your weapons, but it just does more damage. And if you look at my particular weapon system, I hit Alt F and go to fittings here. I can see my because I've overheated my guns, it's gone up to 800 DPS. And if I disable it by shift clicking, a lot of times actually I don't even overheat an individual module. I hit Control 2, and this overheats my entire rack. So if everyone hits Control 2 here, if you have the thermodynamics skill, I'm going to link it right now. Thermodynamics is an expensive skill, but allows you to go ahead and overheat. Everyone can go ahead and stop overheating. You can only overheat your microdrive around 3 times. Now realize that while you are tethered, your overheat damage will repair. So if you took a little damage here, you'll start to get repair. But realize if I get over 10,000 meters away from the Fortizar, you'll start to get, as soon as you get 2,500, you'll see a red line appear. And as soon as I get above 10K, boom, the red line appears. I've lost tether. I'm no longer getting repairs. I'm also vulnerable to attack. When you're tethered, you're safe. as long as you don't get bumped out. They can't just ram your ship, their ship into you and bump you out. So we're gonna try this a couple times. I'm gonna try and coast into just in the edge of tether here, and you guys are all orbiting me. And you guys will go in and out of tether here. And I'm using control space to stop your ship. So there, I'm currently out of tether. If I burn back just a little bit, I should be on the edge of tether, but someone can very easily bump me out. If a practice player wants to try and bump me off, they can. And you can see you guys are leaving and gaining tether here. Are there any questions about this? And you can see the animation there just happened for repairing. Now realize that sometimes you're trying to chase down a target that's faster than you. I don't think I'm going to be faster than many people here. I think there might be, no, I might be faster than all but one. We'll find out here shortly, once I get up to speed. Once someone starts going in a straight line, that's how fast you find out how fast they are. I have overheated a little bit. If you're chasing someone that's faster than you, you can almost never catch them if they know what they're doing. So Astro looks like he might be able to go ahead and catch me here. He's going 4K, so he might be able to go ahead and get a scram on me. Go ahead and get a scram on me, Astro. To do that, you would hold down the control key and left click on them. And then boom, you can get a scram. Their micro drive shuts off as soon as they get scrammed. Note that I've taken a little bit of heat damage here as well. Anam is not going to get on this kill because he's very far away. Anam, you need to go ahead and catch up with the fleet. You're not using your micro drive. Now you notice that I have currently what's called red boxed you, and I can see who's red boxed me as well. If they haven't shot me, then they don't get what's called an aggression timer. So I'm going to go ahead and everyone can stop scamming me for a second. You can also go ahead and see who's webbing you. I can see Tevi and Merlin is webbing me, which is great. Everyone can stop scamming me. As soon as I lose scram, I can go ahead and turn my micro drive on and realize I just got scrammed again by Denny, so I can't go ahead and burn off. You can also see on the watch list when they're getting shot. Can someone go ahead and give me a shoot me? You can see on your watch list, I currently have a little bit of shield damage here. I can also see who went ahead and did it. It shows up in your history here. Now realize that I can go ahead and shoot at somebody. I'll point out that this has one-shot somebody before, so I apologize, Trillic. Everyone can add Trillic to your watch list. Again, you can go to Fleet, add to watch list, or you can click and drag their name into the watch list. I'm going to shoot Trillic here. I'm going to do a scram to make sure you can't run away, and I'm going to go ahead and shoot him once. I'm a little bit outside my range here, so I didn't do a ton of damage, and you saw his name blink. This can add up very, very quickly if they're in a combat ship. So you definitely don't want to be caught off with one of these ships with aggression here. Now I'll point out that if you guys aggress on me or shoot me, you cannot take tether or take a gate. So if I go ahead and fleet warp us someplace, everyone's taking this fleet warp. Again, if you're not aligned or if you have your microdrive running when the FC says not to, you can be left behind. You can see right now that I am currently not taking tether because I have aggression. There is a timer that ticks down in the top left-hand corner that shows weapon aggression. So everyone can go ahead and target me up and shoot me once. Or you can scram me or whatever. When I'm scrammed, I cannot dock or tether either. So it's another feature of it. Now everyone can go ahead and stop aggressing. Stop aggressing. We're going to go ahead and take a dock here. You can see as soon as I go ahead and lose this weapons timer, it appears in the top left-hand corner. I'm immediately able to take things and I'll start to get repairs. These repairs sometimes are delayed. It shows the tethered. And it will go ahead and start to show repairs here. This is going to repair my current damaged micro warp drive. If I drag the micro warp drive here, you can go ahead and see how much damage it currently has. And it repairs about 4% every 3 seconds, I think it is. Once you get one repair cycle, you can also repair it with paste. It's under repair, you right click it and go to repair, and it uses nanite repair paste. Nanite repair paste is like a PvPer's best friend. They repair that heat damage and make it easier for them to get back in the fight. Okay, everyone should be taking tether here. I would like everyone to dock. When I say dock, there's going to be a timer that appears in the top left-hand corner to the left of the magnifying glass. It's a very short timer. It's a small spinning circle. Top left, small spinning circle. It's called a session change timer. The session change timer goes ahead and is basically a way for you to go ahead and prevent people from switching ships immediately, or from joining fleets immediately and then joining another fleet immediately. Every time you change ships, join a fleet, leave a fleet, dock up, undock, those all cause a sessions change timer. Now we just had a hostile come in the system. We're going to go ahead and report this player right now. We don't know what they're in. So we're going to drag the system name. We're going to drag their name and we'll put NV. He's now gone. He's already gone. Wow, that was fast. He might have been sitting there for a little while. I might not know. Would like everyone to go ahead and try undocking now. You're going to have the same sessions change timer up here. It's a very fast cycle. Realize that when you hit undock, you can also do view outside, and it can shorten your undock speed because then it goes very quickly. You might notice that there's a location change timer ticking down right now too. This location change, you cannot be bumped, you cannot be targeted, you cannot be killed, you're completely invulnerable. You can redock if you pass the session change timer. And as soon as that timer is over, you immediately take tether. Realize you take tethers as soon as you land. So you can get safety as long as you have not aggressed anything very easily. Are there any questions on this? Now realize everyone in this fleet is currently in what's called a tackle class. The main classes for brand new players are tackle. You guys are currently in them, and you're currently using mainly the scrambler. You're there for your micro drive and your scrambler. Don't worry about your guns. You're just there for your aggressing on things far away from you just to get on kill mails. You just have to shoot it once, and then you show up, have aggression. As long as it dies within 15 minutes, you show up on the kill mail. But you're mainly there for the micro drive and the scrambler. For the Merlins, it's for the web of fire. You're there for secondary tackle. You guys are a little bit tankier than the slasher. So it's a little bit easier for to hold people down because that web of fire is a massive thing. If someone could link their web of fire, you can click and drag a module onto the chat to go ahead and share it. The web of fire slows people down a lot. You can see these slow it down 15%. There are variations that work a little bit better or have longer range. And you can see that, you know, some of these are better. It's like, but the T2 one, I mean, it's pretty darn good. If you do this, it slows people down 60% and happens 10 kilometers. And if you overheat it, it can get up to 12, I think. There's 11 something. Okay, so sometimes you're being attacked. When you're being attacked, you call for shields, but you only call for shields when you're getting yellow boxed. You don't do it when you finally are getting shot. If you're already getting shot, you're already probably dead. So I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate this up here. I'm going to go ahead and target people. Now realize that when a friendly targets you, it's light pink. It's not yellow. It's only when a hostile or neutral targets you. So I'd like to go ahead and target you one by one, and I'd like you to call for shields as soon as you get targeted, okay? By the way, there is also another invulnerability timer as soon as you land. It lasts about 5 seconds. It's not shown, and do not rely on it because they can get very fancy about it. So as soon as I target you, go ahead and call for shields. Now realize that if I've already started shooting you, it might be too late. Now Trillic, I've decided to go ahead and start shooting you. Tev, I shot you because you didn't call for shields. It's already too late for you. And you can see how much damage Tev took because he's so much closer to me. Now realize I did one shot a slasher, so it can be hard. And now, congratulations, you're now caught. So if I go ahead and warp us off someplace, you might get left behind. So you might notice you might have missed that fleet warp there. If you get scrambled at any point during your warp, you can go ahead and prevent you getting that warp. So we left someone behind because he got scrambled. Now you can almost always warp to the FC. You could also ask in chat, in text chat, to see if it's safe to warp to the FC. Many people can help you with that. Let's go ahead and talk about something else that that Tackle's really good at, and this is called burning pings. We're going to take a warp here, and like everyone to go ahead and do what's called burning pings. This means goes your best possible speed. You're going to burn away from the structure with your micro drive on in a random direction. I recommend not going completely sideways. Don't burn towards something. So you kind of have to spin the camera around and double click in space. If you have the camera snapping every time you click on something, you can click the Shift C button to disable that. Shift C disables it. It's to the left of the capacitor if you ever need to turn it off. Turning off auto camera snap is really important. Now notice that we're all burning to the different sides. Astro, you're going to the straight to the sides. Tev, you're going straight to the sides. You need to use a little bit of verticality. Trillic, you're going straight to the side. And Anom, you're going straight to the side. You need to go a little bit up and down. By going a little bit up and down, it gives the FC more options because it's a 3D space. If anyone's familiar with Wrath of Khan, now realize that once someone has burned far enough away, if we're over 150 kilometers away from somebody, we can all take a fleet warp to that person and then helpfully go ahead and just kill anyone that happens to be near Astero. This is why burning pings is so powerful. Everyone keep on burning pings, double click away, double click in space. You can also double click towards something on your overview. So if I double clicked on the Fortizar, I would start to burn to it. I can also hold down the Q key, which is under the approach here, and click on things to burn towards something. If I hold down Q, it opens up a new menu that's very complicated, but you basically can go ahead and approach a point in space. So if I go ahead and do this right here, for instance, it'll approach this point. And this is a very hard menu to get used to. You just need to practice it with it. Hold down Q and you can click and click. And it uses one for the side, one for verticality. So, but if you hold down Q and click on something, it'll start to approach an item in space. You can also approach a player. And you can also go ahead and I'd like everyone to go and hold down W key and find me in the watch list and orbit me now with your micro drive running. You might also go ahead and do what's called a spiral tackle. We're going to go ahead and show you this in the agency. The agency has a bunch of tutorials. I'll link where it is. It's under Neocom, which is the E in the top left-hand corner. Activities, the agency, and there's something called help section. Give me a second, let me find it here. If you find the agency help section, you can see in there's one called Spiral Tackle, and it explains in detail how a spiral tackle works. There's videos on a bunch of others, the mechanics in the game here. If you burn straight into somebody, you're gonna die. You can also click and drag these videos out to other people to show them to them, and it should open them automatically, but it's better for me to show you where these are so you can find them yourself. All of the PvP ones are useful. I really love the exploration ones. They're very long. The Soldier of Fortune ones aren't very useful. Enforcers aren't fantastic. Industrials aren't great. So the scanning ones are really solid though. Scanning has a lot of details on how scanning works. Sometimes an FC might warp you someplace and realize that, oh God, I've messed up. Or sometimes an FC might warp themselves off because they're bad at the game. So they will tell you what to do. I would like everyone to hold red on this gate. Red means red, like a stoplight. You're not going to take the gate. So if you hit jump accidentally, you hit control space and you'll stop yourself as long as it doesn't take effect. And eventually I might say, I will never say the J word if I'm not the FC. You're never going to say, did he say jump? You'll say, was the status of the gate, or gate status, or red. You're never going to say green either, because you want the FC to be the one to say that. So if I say jump, someone might accidentally go ahead and jump here, and that's not what I wanted. I just wanted to go ahead and say the word. We'll see if anyone else accidentally listened to me too closely. Fantastic. Everyone, gate is green. Gate is green. My gate is green. That means you're going to take the gate here. Now, when you jump through a gate, you have a gate cloak timer. It shows up in the top left-hand corner. To jump the gate, you go ahead and left-click on the gate, and there's a jump icon in the selected items, the third button here. This cloak, the jump cloak timer, again, you're invulnerable, you're unable to get targeted, you're unable to get killed, but you can have bad things happening if you wait too long, but you have a full minute to decide what you're gonna do. Well, I just realized, oh God, we're in the wrong place. I would like everyone to burn back to gate. To burn back to gate, you double click on the gate and turn your micro drive on. Everyone do that now. The longer you're there on a bad side of a gate, the more likely you're gonna die. Tab, you got it. And realize you can move your buttons around here to make it easier to go ahead and click these. So I can move these to the top row so I can hit F2 and everyone can take the gate. Gate is green. Jump back into the system. Again, the longer you are there by yourself, the more likely you are to die in a fleet. Realize that the FC might go ahead and do a fleet warp while everyone's cloaked. This is called a cold warp. Again, he can see approximately how many people are in local, and you remember you have local in its own window. I have a picture of what my UI looks like up on my website, which is wckg.net. And it has a bunch of details on setting up the UI. It has a video associated with the UI. The video for the UI is a little bit out of date, but it has a bunch of details on setting these up. And again, I have this set up in a certain way so I can see everyone in local. I can see bean intel. I can see the fleet, and I can click and drag between two. So if I see someone showed up in QTAC-T, GQT, I could go ahead and link that. Let's talk a little bit about system names. They're very confusing. You guys might have already heard me saying these a couple times. Go ahead and go to search for anything in the top left-hand corner and type MJ TAC. When I say TAC, that means hyphen or also dash. It's go ahead and type MJ TAC. When you hit enter, a little spinning thing will start to appear, and it will go ahead and list all the characters that have MJ in their name. You can minimize this. It'll also show solar systems. You can see there are 6 different solar systems that have MJ in it, and there's 3 that have MJ TAC. So 3 letters with a dash isn't enough information. But if I put MJ5, realize I can do search for anything and put MJ5 and do the same thing. It'll only show one system. So if you look at the current system I put in, if I put G-Q and I go to auto and do select all on it, right click on it and do solar system, it actually has 2 different ones and I don't know which one it is. So I have to guess which one it is, and I can say, look at it, and I can go to the route and say, this is the correct one. So I can put G-Q. This might be the wrong G-Q because you don't have the 3rd letter. But if I put GQT, again, right click, select solar system, then that is always going to be the right one. So all 3 of these entries in text all go to the correct place. And realize that if we go ahead and do set destination, it doesn't actually show it other than under a void. So it's sometimes very hard to do it from this thing. And realize that in Intel, you can right click on any of these people and set destination based on this. So you can see that there's currently a hostile in C3J. We're going to warp our fleet here, and we're going to set up a gate camp here. This person might jump into us. I'm an addictor. We have a very good chance of catching them. So I would like everyone to go ahead and overheat their mid rack, hit Control-2 or click the middle button on to the right. It says there's and you're going to get ready to tackle here. If you have a PvP overview, load the PvP overview. If you want to, you could even load a PvP clear that removes everything but hostiles. So if Shara Fairbank jumps into local with this, we're going to tackle them and we're going to kill them. We don't know what they're in, but we just going to have a guess. We could look them up on Zkill. So if I open up Zkill, I can go ahead and copy this name. This person was last seen in a buzzard, so we might have a very tough time catching this person. They're most likely doing exploration on us right now. Now realize that I will always tell you what the gate status is when I'm warping you. If I don't tell you, sometimes you might go ahead and someone might say the J word, and then everyone kind of jumps in, and then it's just a bad time. Now there is a major change in the game for any returning players. You can overheat your gate your micro drive while cloaked, as long as it's a gate cloak. If it's like you're using the cloak in game, the prototype cloak, those you still have to go ahead and decloak to get those overheated. But you do have like a 5-second window or so to go ahead and do that. Everything that I went over, that we went over today is currently in 2 different places. I'm going to go ahead and give you an onboarding debrief. It covers everything we went over. This is a Google document that we've prepared that basically just talks about how to find things within Horde. Realize that all of the details is currently in my website with wckag.net. So if you are looking for, if you go ahead and click this link and then go to the vet page, onboarding basically shows you all the things we went over here. And under the bidder vet, there's an option in here. This shows all major changes in the last 8 years. I think I've gone over everything I need to get through. I'm happy to go ahead and take questions. There's a caretaker feedback form. I would love to go ahead and hear from you. My name is Kismetir, and I've been your caretaker today. We do get paid for doing caretaking, and we would love to go ahead and hear feedback. If we did great, then let us know we did great. If we did poor, if we did, you know, let them know exactly what I did really well. And it is anonymous for me, it is not anonymous for my bosses. They want to go ahead and talk to you if I did a poor job. Realize there's also an option in there to review FCs. So again, FCs can go ahead and get help too. I think that's it. I'm going to go ahead and stop the video here.